Commander Valen Tor stood on the obsidian balcony, watching the great spires of Luminaris fade into the smog. For thousands of years, the Ethelgard ascendancy had burned with a brilliant telepathic blue light. Now the city was dark. The hollow blight did not just kill. It erased. It severed the mental tethers that connected their species, leaving only empty, silent shells behind. In his pale hand, Tor held a royal registry. The dimming hum of a crystal datapad vibrated against his palm, the device losing power as the telepathic network it relied upon collapsed. It was a small, failing sound, a perfect mirror to his empire. They had broadcast the distress transmission across the Obsidian Reach 20 cycles ago. The proud, xenophobic ascendancy, begging the galaxy for salvation. No one had answered. Tor knew why. When the lesser species had pleaded for aid, the ascendancy had turned its back. A violent crack of displaced atmosphere shattered the silence. Tor looked up. A massive silhouette blotted out the pale sun, descending through the gray clouds. The hull was dark, ungraceful, built of crude metal rather than grown crystal. A human starship. The Vanguard. Tor gripped the balcony rail, his mind racing through tactical protocols. They came to conquer. No, they are landing peacefully. They had called humanity primitive for centuries. Yet when their glowing cities finally went dark, only a human ship answered their desperate transmission. Join us as we witness the final days of the ascendancy. Tor descended to the landing platform. The Vanguard's ramp lowered with a heavy, mechanical groan. Captain Elias Thorne stepped out onto the ash-covered stone. He was not wearing armor. He carried no weapons. Beside him walked Dr. Eris Mercer, scanning the dead air with a handheld human device. "Commander Tor," Elias said, his voice deep and painfully steady. "We received your signal. We are here to help." Tor could only stare at the human. He noted the heavy cord of muscle in the captain's neck, the absolute lack of hesitation in his posture. "Our Empress waits," Tor managed to say, leading them into the cavernous depths of the palace. The throne room was a graveyard of shadows. Empress Kelia sat upon her crystal seat, her skin a ghastly, translucent gray. The inner light that defined their species was nearly extinguished. "You came," Kelia whispered, her voice a fragile, dying echo in Tor's mind. "Even after all we denied you. We are not here to settle history, Empress," Elias said, stepping closer to the throne. "We are here to save your future." Dr. Mercer immediately deployed her equipment, taking samples of Kelia's fading cellular structure. Tor watched the human doctor work with a frantic, focused energy. For 3 days, Mercer isolated herself in the royal laboratories, comparing the hollow blight against the Vanguard's extensive medical database. Then she called Tor and Elias into the sterile, white room. "Gone." That was the word Tor felt echoing from Mercer's posture, even without telepathy. The human doctor looked sick. "It is not a natural pathogen," Dr. Mercer said, pulling up a horrific schematic on the central monitor. "It targets your specific telepathic nodes. It was engineered by your own people." Tor's chest tightened. The purist faction. The extremists who believed mixing with lesser races had weakened the ascendancy. They had designed a weapon to cleanse the weak, and it had mutated, consuming everyone. The very people who claimed to be the pure saviors of the ascendancy were the ones tearing its soul apart. "What would you do if your own kind engineered your extinction? Can you stop it?" Elias asked, his jaw set in a hard, unforgiving line. Mercer looked at the captain, her hands dropping to her sides. "Their immune systems are entirely compromised. The only thing that can destroy the blight is a biological counteragent forged from a life force completely immune to it. A human life force." She swallowed hard, the silence in the room stretching until it snapped. "But it cannot be synthesized, Elias. It has to be transferred live." Elias did not look at his officers for permission. He did not ask Mercer for a projection of survival odds. He simply removed his uniform jacket and rolled up his sleeves. "Prepare the transfer," Elias commanded. Mercer's voice cracked. She argued, her hands shaking. explaining that the volume of biological energy required to purge the hollow blight from a telepathic network of billions would drain a single human dry in minutes. Elias refused to yield. He spoke of his daughter, Lyra. He spoke of leaving her a galaxy where mercy outlasted spite. They relocated to the deepest medical ward of the palace. Tor stood frozen behind the containment barrier. The rhythmic, failing click of a medical synthesizer echoed through the sterile chamber, serving as a grim countdown for two monarchs of entirely different worlds. Mercer connected the heavy, glowing conduits between the human and the Ethelgard ruler. Elias turned his head, locking eyes with Tor through the reinforced glass. The human offered a slight, incredibly calm nod. Tor's chest seized. He cannot survive that extraction. He knows. Mercer threw the primary switch. Captain Elias lay immobilized on the medical bed, feeling his entire life force being violently ripped from his veins to reignite the fading glow of the alien empress beside him. The human's body arched off the mattress, every blood vessel in his neck corded against the catastrophic strain. Tor could see the raw gravity of the pain, yet Elias never screamed. He just stared at the ceiling, absorbing the cost of an entire civilization's sins. As the golden hue of human resilience flooded into the Empress's translucent veins, driving back the engineered decay that had threatened to consume an empire of billions, the agonizing realization of what this primitive species was willing to sacrifice finally broke the ascendancy's oldest and most unforgiving prejudices. The medical readouts plummeted. Elias stopped breathing. A long, unbroken tone flatlined across the room. Mercer collapsed against the console, weeping openly. But on the adjacent bed, Empress Kelia opened her eyes. A blinding, immaculate blue light erupted from her skin, washing away the necrotic gray. The telepathic network instantly snapped back online. Tor staggered backward, clutching his temples as the voices of 50 billion ascendancy citizens flooded his consciousness. The blight was burning away, purged by the sacrificial warmth now pumping through the Empress's heart. In the days that followed, Empress Kelia ordered the complete dissolution of the purist faction and tore down the borders of the Obsidian Reach. The Ethelgard Ascendancy offered a permanent, equal alliance to Earth, sharing their most guarded technological secrets in exchange for humanity's profound spirit of cooperation. 20 cycles later, Commander Tor stood in the royal gardens beside a towering monument of bronze and crystal. Captain Lyra Thorne knelt before the stone, tracing her father's carved name. Beside her boots, a once-dead bioluminescent flower pulsed with a brilliant, steady blue light, thriving in soil that had finally learned how to heal. Would you give everything to save a world that gave you nothing? Subscribe for more stories from the deep, and we'll be here tomorrow.